my friends. Let's talk about culture. Uh, a culture, by which I'll mean a way of, a way of, well, we could say a way of living, but specifically, it is a set of beliefs and behaviors. So, belief is like what you think, it's like thoughts, and then behaviors is actions, right? And beliefs you could divide into um, beliefs about what is and about beliefs about what should be. So, what's right and wrong, like should, and what's real and not real, or true or false. So, right and wrong in that double sense, that's beliefs, and then behavior, like which kind of flows from belief, or yeah, it always flows from belief, I guess. But sometimes we will believe some things subconsciously and not realize. So you might um, believe in honesty, but subconsciously you might believe that like, oh no, maybe you're a politician and you believe in honesty, but subconsciously you believe that the people are too stupid, so you can't be fully honest, and so you lie to them or something. As a random example, coming from my subconscious for some reason, I wonder why. Um, but yeah, but so whether it's unconscious or conscious, our behavior does flow from our beliefs about what we should be doing and what is good for us, what's in our interest. Um, so yeah, and so culture is not just the food that we cook and eat, that would be the behavior. Or, what's the etiquette? Like, do you hold the door open for people? Do you wait in line? Do you say please and thank you? Do you smile and do you say hello to strangers? Um, or is that like weird? And that's, what are you doing? You're making people uncomfortable. Stop that. Um, or what else? Um, do you talk loudly in public? Do you talk quietly? Um, uh, do you let, um, you know, people with, women with a pram or a boogie or whatever, get on the bus or train in front of you or whatever. These are different behaviors that where it might depend on, it does depend on your culture. And cultures, basically, countries are built upon culture, right? Like a country is an area where there's enough of a culture, a unique culture, that the people there have decided like we want to be our own sovereign entity. We're too different to these jerks next door. We don't want to be part of it, of their thing. Um, Although, of course, within a country, you'll have differences of culture. Different cities, have their own culture in many cases, and villages even. And so these slight differences of not just behavior and like, the way you speak, or what you how you dress, or what you think you should be doing, and all of what you believe is real. But yeah, so these differences, you go, oh, it's close enough, okay, we'll be part of the same country. But anyway, okay, so culture, right? Now, what I want to kind of talk about is like it's that culture is kind of like a collective personality, and I think this is has implications for kind of world peace and kind of understanding and kind of spiritual growth for the species and the planet. Uh, like let's say some your friends, right? You want to be similar enough that you can get on, but you don't want to be too similar so it's boring. Just like when you go to the gym, you don't want to lift weights that are too heavy, then you hurt yourself. But also, if it's too easy, then it's pointless. You're wasting your time. You're not going to get any benefit. So you want, or if something's too easy, it's boring. If it's too hard, it's frustrating. So there's that golden zone, the oximal, what's it, zone of optimal engagement or whatever, Um, so, or is it zone of proximal development as well, where it's like close enough that you can learn. It's a bit beyond you, but not too far. So, with friends, we are different, hopefully, to some, we're going to be different, but hopefully you know, we're not living in an echo chamber that's then reinforcing whatever we believe, reinforcing the correct things, the healthy things we believe, and also reinforcing the unhealthy things, which are inevitably there, given in nature, um, yin and yang are everywhere, you know, light and dark, opposites, you know, polarity. Um, so, um, so friends, we can, you know, help each other with identify our blind spots. So say, you know, I'm aware of a bunch of things, but maybe I have some thing about belief or behavior where I don't, you know, I'm doing something and maybe it's not very useful for me. It's causing problems, but I don't realize. Um, and a friend can go, they can see it and go, oh, hey Jamie, why do you always do that? Or you know, hey, well, why are you doing that? Don't you want to do this? Um, or why did you say that? Could you explain that? Or whatever it is, you know? And then, and then maybe they just make me kind of pay attention to it. And then I go, oh yeah, what is that? And that could be enough. Or maybe they even offer me a different way of living or of behaving or believing, you know? And I go, oh yeah, I like that. And I can throw it, take it or leave it, you know, but they're offering it. And that's what good friends should do. Help each other kind of grow and identify our limitations and develop. Um, and I do that for them. So, you know, they do it for me, I do it for them. And one hand washes the other, as they say. And so that's all good. But with friends, you know, if your friend is really keen on doing something and you're like, hey, this is a bad idea, you could feel even really sure. Like often we're not totally sure. We're like, okay, you know best. It's your life. Go ahead. Um, but sometimes we're like really sure. No, definitely. You know, this is a bad idea. But still, it's their life. You know. So I think usually now this is from my culture, I guess, but I think in general this would be what people do. Maybe in some cultures this is totally the opposite. Actually, this might be my culture, which we'll get to how this, you know, this whole point of this podcast, um, the punchline. But let's say, you know, my way of thinking, it's like, yeah, a friend, you know, if your friend is doing something really you think's bad, it would have to be really, really serious for you to be like, oi, you know, and tell them what to do and risk losing the friend or having a big argument, at least. It would have to be pretty serious. If they're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to rob a bank. Like, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like, you know, you have to get up in their face and, you know, um, but, you know, that would be very rare. Most of the time, when even if it's really serious and you're sure it's not a good idea, you will just I would just let them, I would tell them my opinion maybe twice and then go, okay, you know, make sure they understand my point of view. But once I'm sure, yeah, they understand me, then go, okay, it's their choice, it's their life, their journey. They will learn the lessons from the positive or negative feedback from their actions and their thoughts. So then with friends, we can share perspectives. We try to help each other, but you know, unless we're certain something, you know, someone's doing something really, you know, kind of very harmful, explicitly, extremely clearly harmful, we won't intervene. We let them have their journey. Um, and I think that's the same thing with cultures. Like different cultures, have different beliefs and different behaviors, and it's not totally clear which one is, you know, who's right. It's like, well, you know, like there's a circle of friends, each one's kind of different. Who's right? Who's got the right way of living? No one. It's like there are many different ways of living, and having a circle of friends, you get all of them. You get the benefits of all of them, and you get to share that. And then, you know, your parties or your get-togethers are really colorful and amazing. And that's the planet. You know, we've got so many different ways of living on this planet, and it's amazing that we have that. It's not just one monoculture, you know. Um, and so, you know, which ironically is one argument in favor of, you know, kind of not having, you know, too much wholesale mass immigration, which is a big issue in Europe. But I'm not going to get fully into it in this episode. But I think, ironically, if you care about the value of other cultures, you know, we want a world, I think, where we can still enjoy the differences and we don't get all, you know, swamped into just like one kind of way of living. Although I think even if we're all, you know, within a city, you can have differences. So there'll still be differences, but I think there's some extent to which um, cultures, the Japanese want to be all on their own or whatever, and they want to, travel and they love traveling and having people visit or whatever, but they want to remain Japanese. They're pretty, strict about that. And I think on the surface that might seem racist, but then I think if you look a bit deeper, it's kind of interesting. Like, no, they just want to be Japanese, they don't want to be some other thing. And we want them to be Japanese. It's cool for us to be able to visit and go, yeah, they're totally, it's a real other world. Um, but anyway, it's a side note. But so it's not clear, like in a circle of friends, who's better, who's got the right way of living. Well, I might think that I've got a better way of believing, or behaving than others, but that's just, I can't get outside my beliefs. That's just my belief. That is my belief that I have good beliefs is a belief. So I can't get outside myself. So how can I be sure? I can't. I could be, you know, you can notice certain things like, oh, I'm happier, I'm more peaceful than them maybe, or I can achieve my goals better than them maybe, or people want to be friends with me more than someone else maybe. Like things like that could be evidence that you've got something that's working, but still, you can never be totally sure that they don't have some better system or way of living because of some other reason you can't even wrap your head around due to your nature, your personality. So, long story short, there is no best person in the friend group. It's just, there's many ways of living. They produce different results, and it depends what you want. If you want to have some crazy life, then but maybe you're stressed. Some crazy businessman who's always traveling around and doing bungee jumping and stuff, getting in fights. You might think, oh, that's a terrible life. But if your goal is to just have drama and crazy experiences, maybe that's very successful. And then maybe that guy would be like, oh, this woman who's just painting and hanging out in her apartment and just works in a cafe being a barista, and huh, what a failure. But then maybe for her, she's like, no, I just want to be really calm and just settle in and just like, one day I'm going to die, but I just love every day, and here I am. I just hang out. It's perfect. That's what she wants. So that's successful on her terms. And so so long as they're not harming others or restricting others' freedom, I think you can't really say one's better than the other necessarily. But and so in the same way with cultures around the world, we can go, oh, this culture, um, maybe, oh, the family, in this culture, like say Asian culture, East Asian culture, it's like the family is more, as far as I understand it, is more important than the individual. So it's like, oh, your parents tell you to do this, okay, go do it. Even if you're an adult, it's like, you know, maybe it changes a bit, I guess, but still there's that seniority thing, or like older siblings having seniority, which used to be a thing in the West too, right? But and so like say oh I want to be, for example, I want to be a painter, but my parents want me to be a doctor. To a Western mind, you would go, okay, well, a lot of Westerners were like, well, be a painter. Although a lot of them would be like, also like, oh no, be a doctor. That's more practical, and then paint in your free time. Um, but I think it seems fair to say that a much larger percentage of people, if you were surveying people from an Eastern culture, would be like, well, you got to be a doctor. Like, look, your parents have raised you. They put in all these resources and time, and that's like respect. You got to do what they want in that case. And um, so, and then in general, like say the society or the government tells you to do this, okay, better do it. Whereas in the West, it would be like a similar thing, like no, do what makes sense for you. And if you're not hurting someone, then you have the right to do what you want. So, and say to that end, say the Chinese government is pretty dictatorial and kind of telling people what to do, and I do personally believe that's unhealthy to a large extent, because it seems that there's organ harvesting of peaceful prisoners going on, people who are just trying to do yoga, like Falun Gong, getting put in prison and then being killed and have their organs sold. As far as I know, that is true. That happens. The Uyghur genocide, that kind of stuff. Um, and so but if you even made like a less extreme version of it, you could have that kind of totalitarian state thing, and like this kind of big brother government thing where this centralized bureaucracy running things. Um, And I would still feel like, oh, I feel like that's not really healthy. It should be freedom of the individual. But maybe that's just, my culture to some extent. And I do believe there's universal right and wrong to some extent. But I think if on some issues, we it is more of like a, you need to be aware that there's different ways up, many ways up the mountain. And so in one culture, they might say, no, yeah, we want, like, the parents to have more. You should do what the parents tell you, and so you should do it. All the family should do what the government tells you, and that could be their way of believing and behaving, and it might not make sense to me. Whereas I think, no, the government serves the people. That's what's healthy. But perhaps, that's just my culture, my way of doing things. And I may genuinely believe that my culture is superior in that, like, like, yeah, it maximizes peace, prosperity, perception, and, you know, the pulse of beauty, um, and that, but, we shouldn't be chauvinistic, I think, and kind of we should keep our minds open to the possibility that other cultures have something to teach us. And just like the circle of friends, I can go, all right, well, I think you've got a blind spot there, whatever culture it is, and kind of try to share that with them in a respectful way, and they can take it or leave it, and then ask them and really welcome them doing the same to me. Be like, what do you see as like the shortcomings of Western culture or of like my point of view or whatever, and they can share that. And at an international level, like, with diplomacy, can you imagine if governments were doing that? Like, what do you think our blind spots are? Imagine like, countries saying that to each other. Um, and so I think uh, that idea, having that awareness that, yeah, it's not like we're the best or there's this right way and I happen to have figured it out. Um, or maybe my ally, I'm pretty good, but my ally, oh, they're perfect. They've really got it figured out, and everyone should copy what my ally does. And so I might even support wars to help my ally, because they're so perfect. It's like, well, maybe, there's more than one way of living, and cultures are like collective personalities. And to be a bit more specific there, I mean, they are a set of beliefs and behaviors. But so with a person, you have your own beliefs and behaviors. It's almost like each of us, our personality is an individual culture, and then a family is a kind of bit more of a collective culture where everyone in the family will be different. But if you compare yourselves to members of other families, suddenly you and your family all look the same. Compared to others, you're very, very much more similar to them than you are to others. Um, and then say all, your family and all these other families who are different, if you start comparing them to families from other cities or other countries, you would go, oh, suddenly all these families from my city or my country who seem so different, like we are similar to members of our own family, but all the other families, oh, very different. Um, each family's kind of like a unit. They're similar to each other, but we're all kind of all the families are different and distinct. Suddenly, even all of us start looking the same compared to these other, these families from some other city or some other country. And so there are these collective layers of collective belief and behavior where you've got these similarities, these shared patterns, um, and uh, and so that's what I mean by saying like a culture, or like a country is like this collective personality, and it doesn't mean that everyone's the same, but it means if you meet a Brazilian, it's more likely than not that they're going to be really relaxed and friendly and love dancing, you know, and if you meet someone from Korea, it's very likely they're going to be hardworking and very empathetic and concerned about maintaining poise and dignity, uh, and there's many exceptions, but like I've met a bunch of, cause my job, I teach English as a second language, so I meet a bunch of foreigners, people from other, although I'm the foreigner to them, but and I have noticed these things like, wow, actually, like cultures, they really are like this collective personality, like v- the overwhelming majority of the time, like you can notice these patterns that pass through the members of these cultures. Um, and so, yeah, and so I think let's take an example of an individual, right? Just one more example to make this kind of clear, then we'll finish. Um, so, like, say you got two friends, and one is like, oh, I think I'm gonna do what I love as a career, and then, let's say they both have the same goal, right? Let's say both want to be happy and rich, okay? And so but how are they going to go about it? One of them is like, oh, I think I'll do what I love, which is painting, and then I think I'm just going to get so good at it because I'm going to want to practice that I'm going to end up getting rich, and because I'll just be so good at it because I'll put in all the time because I love it. And even if I don't get really, really rich, overall, I will have a lot of happiness. And so that's a kind of wealth. So overall, when you sum up the happiness and wealth together, happiness and like the wealth, happiness and money, spiritual and material wealth, I'll be best doing that. And then the friend is like, oh no, I think I see you, good luck, but I think I'm gonna go be a doctor. I mean, it's okay. I mean, but I really want to be a painter, but I'm going to paint in my free time. And I'm going to be a doctor so I can travel and, have a lot of resources. I'm not going to have to worry about the stress of poverty and paying bills. And so I won't be able to paint as often. Um, so I'll be a little bit less on the happiness thing, maybe. But I think overall, you know, material and spiritual wealth, I'll be better off. Now, who's going to win in terms of overall wealth, money and happiness? Who knows, right? It really depends. It's an open-ended running experiment, right? And so with our own lives, there are these open-ended experiments. We're seeing what works, trial and error, and trying to pass it on to the next generation or pass it on to our friends. Right now, what I'm doing to you, I'm passing on, or every week, is passing on what I've learned and am learning in my life. And, my ancestors have learned as well, or my friends. Um, and so we don't know who's going to be, it's like that, the parable of the Zen master, like one day a horse uh, runs away, like a stallion, from the village. And everyone's like, oh, how terrible. And then the Zen master's like, oh, we'll see. And then, a few days later, the horse comes back with a bunch of mares in tow, and this charming, charismatic horse has brought a bunch of lady horses home back to the village, and everyone's like, "Wow, how wonderful, how fortunate." Zen master says, "Yeah, we'll see." And then the son of the guy who owned the horse is riding one of these horses and gets thrown off the horse and breaks a leg. How terrible! We'll see, says Zen master. The army comes rolling through unexpectedly. Hey, recruiting, drafting people for the war, and then oh, okay, all the able-bodied men are taken into the army, except for this guy who's got a broken leg, and everyone's oh, how fortunate. Zen master, you know what he says, and yeah, so it's like it depends, we don't really know, right? We're just doing the best we can, but the results are constantly changing. You could have a terrible situation, often tragedy can be a great blessing. Like you have a problem, but then it forces you to go really deep and learn into your consciousness and into life and kind of figure out like what's the meaning of things, what's reliable, what brings happiness, etc. And you can, overall, then you can boost your awareness, and then that could be the key to having some amazing situations unfold for you. So you can't just say bad things bad, good things good. It's all kind of intertwined. That personally and then collectively, like a lot of the problems in the world I see, very concerning. But I think I always remind myself, like, yeah, this is all the precondition for some amazing stuff that's going to come. That's going to be required. Whereas it wouldn't be possible without these preconditions. So yeah, it's going to. I think it's good to keep in mind. There's so much good that coming from all these bad things. But it's yin and yang. We've got to surf the balance between them, I think. But yeah, so say there's these two friends. Who's going to have a better life? Who knows, right? Copy whoever you're more influenced by, and or whoever you're more drawn to. And in the same way with collective cultures, the culture within your country, or are you more traditional, more like say Christian or Muslim or whatever your traditional religious structure is, or philosophical structures, or are you more like postmodernist or whatever, like yeah, nothing's real, let's just go party, or okay, go for it if you think that makes sense. I wouldn't personally, but that's just me. And so we kind of do what makes sense to us, and then others are free to do what they think makes sense to them, and they will be monitoring us, and we monitor them, and we kind of see the results we get, and we kind of shift accordingly, and we try to learn by trial and error. Um, and then likewise in the world, cultures are doing this. Eastern cultures are going, oh wow, the West, all the freedom, interesting, yeah. People expressing their emotions more. Hmm. I'm not. It's not just Europe and Asia, or whatever. Like, Africa and like, Latin America and whatever, all around the world, these different cultures. And within Asia or Africa or whatever, there are countless cultures. But through cultural exchange, through travel, very very important. Also immigration, but again, I think travel is probably a more, yeah, I think immigration is great, but you do need, as I said, I'm going to talk about in another episode. You do need balance there. You don't want to do it too much too soon, or you destabilize systems, I think. But travel, I think people can basically travel, as much as possible. That would be great for the world, just to kind of expand our awareness um, of belief and behavior and ways of doing things and get ideas. Take it or leave it, but it's food for thought, and so around the world, we have these open-ended, long-running, running since time immemorial experiments of different ways of believing and behaving, which we call cultures, and they split within, there's cultures within cultures, the subcultures, fashion cultures, sport cultures, kind of intelligentsia or intellectual kind of cultures, different schools of thought. There's all these different ways of thinking and behaving, um, but I think the goal should be that we can appreciate that we're a big circle of friends, and that there are many there's benefits to and detriments to every angle, um, and it very likely some like to finish. One important point is you're like, yeah, we're all, there's benefits and detriments to all of us, all the friends in the circle or all the cultures on the planet. So good. But the final point is there, I do believe some are superior to others. Deep down, we're all equal. We're all the same. We're all the universe. We're all consciousness. But if you look at a circle of friends, um, we can't know, but we can guess. But like, there is a fact. Someone is the laziest, and someone is the hardest working. Someone is the most creative. Someone is the least creative. Someone is the funniest. Someone is the least funny. Someone is the most, sexually, attractive. Someone is the least, or whatever, in terms of behavior. Let's say something you can control, or I guess you can control the way, your health. But and so there are, and it will be combinations of these things. But for sure, there is a scale of, excellence and goodness in these different qualities. And sometimes it's pretty obvious, like, yeah, this friend's just all around across the board, this person's doing better than that person. That person should really take a leaf out of this person's book. Um, and in the same way, I think with cultures around the world, I wouldn't say North Korea seems to have a very good culture there, where it's like, it has been very largely, and again, I'm not judging, I'm not saying they're bad people. Yunmi Park is amazing, the voice of North Korea. Check out that YouTube channel. She's a defector from North Korea, like she escaped. And there's a lot of amazing, really tragic, but very mind expanding things to say. Um, but I think, from what I understand and from what she said, the government has kind of encouraged this culture of everyone has to tell on everyone, or else. And if someone says something bad about the government, for example, or the local official, oh, can you believe this? We're all starving and having to eat dogs, literally, or eating cannibalism. I'm not sure right now, but definitely in the past, maybe now still, but like terrible things going on. Um, but but still lots of corruption. How can they be doing this? They have their food, and someone, just a little comment like that. Now, if you don't dob them in and get them in trouble, then someone else can dob you in if they have noticed somehow. Maybe someone a bit down the hallway or in the next room overheard this. They can go, hey, this happened, and Jamie was there. And they go, oh, Jamie, this happened. You didn't tell us, and then I'm equally guilty. And I think there's things like, if you are found guilty, not just you, but like your whole, family, like your cousins and stuff, will be punished. And depending how serious it is, I think even like second cousins or something, we all get purged. Just so something like that. We can't say that that's on an equal footing, you know. And then, but then with say, so, Cambodians who are just like super chill and just very peaceful and Buddhist, and they're just always smiley and want to help people, and they're just so happy that the civil wars ended, well, not civil war, but the Khmer Rouge stuff, and I guess civil war. Um, and there are these different ways of being, um, and a lot of that, some of that comes down to free will. A lot of it, I think, comes down to just destiny and the way history has flowed. So it's not necessarily a reason to be thinking anyone is, definitely not that someone's better than someone else on the deepest level of spirit, because we're all one in that case. But every branch on the tree is the tree, and so we're equal in that sense. But some branches are healthier than other branches. They have more leaves. They're more beautiful. They're they're more useful for climbing for kids or whatever it is. They have more flowers, whatever. Um, uh, so yeah, I think with friends, it is fair to say, yeah, like we can't, in many cases, we won't be able to know who's the best, and it doesn't even matter. All that matters is, are you the best you can be? Um, and so, in many cases, if you dwell too much on who is the best and am I the best compared to others, then that'll actually make you worse in many cases. Um, so it's all just about being the best you can, blooming to your full potential, and helping others do the same, so that your circle blooms, or the tree blooms, help all of us grow and thrive and flourish. Um, but sometimes it is, important to discriminate, distinguish, notice the differences between, oh, that's less good than this, or this person was doing that thing and I thought that was really cool, but then they seem to actually be kind of just burnt out and not very happy, and interesting, that might be relevant to my choices. And similarly with cultures, note and um, for example, the West is, economically, culturally, politically, legally, just uh, legal systems and corruption and stuff. There's a lot of shenanigans and mayhem going on in the West, and I think a lot of cultures around the world are going, flew too close to the sun, all that freedom, look what it's doing to you. And they might have a point, that we need to be more grounded in tradition and kind of some basic, not just like tear things down if we go, oh, I can't see the point of this thing, let's get rid of it. But well, maybe it's there for a reason that you don't understand, or you'll understand 100 years from now. But then but this will go on forever, I think. All the cultures will keep learning from each other, and that is the goal. Try not to kill each other and dominate each other, but just try to, we have our patch, you have your patch, and we try to grow, and organically if one culture is more excellent than another, it will naturally attract followers, and surrounding cultures will morph into analogs of it, just like Buddhism spread to China, not through an invasion, but just because the Chinese were like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. And then it kind of fused with Taoism and Confucianism, and then ends up in Japan as Zen, and so kind of like just spreading through the world. And so I think, yeah, that with the friends and with cultures at large, with yourself and with cultures at large, we should try to lead by example, and we should try to keep our eyes open to kind of notice when we can learn something from others. I think there's a lot to learn. All right. That's it. See you, everyone.